Welcome to another edition of the Bottom 10, right here at the Voice of College Football. Like the videos, share the videos out on social media, and subscribe. About 75% of our viewership does not subscribe. Got to subscribe, then you hit the bell for the notifications to know when we go live. We do our best work going live, talking college football directly with you. Let's get to the Bottom 10, starting with North Carolina. Came into Week 8, 6-0. Top 10 in the country, 23.5-point favorite against the worst team on their schedule. So North Carolina was rolling. They had not played any massive, great teams, but if you look at their schedule from start to finish, every week was a decent team on the schedule. 2 Power 5s out of conference, South Carolina, Minnesota. They handled both of them. Even their Group of 5 matchup was against a good App State team. So North Carolina's faced a pretty prominent schedule. This should have been a cakewalk. At home, they take on a Virginia team that had lost 7 consecutive games against the Power 5, was 1-11 in its last 12 games overall. And what happened? Cavaliers pulled the upset off 31-27, intercepting Drake May to finish and close out the game. It's the first time a team with at least a 1-5 record or worse has gone on the road to defeat a top 10 team since Oklahoma did it against Mizzou back in 1961. Kicking off our Bottom 10, it's UNC. James Franklin, welcome to the Bottom 10. I know that you're used to the top 10 in the rankings, but when it comes to big-time showdown matchups, it's a Bottom 10 ranking for you and your Penn State Nittany Lions. Now dropping to 1-12 against Ohio State in the past 13 meetings. James Franklin has that one win against Ohio State. It was a big one, led to a Big Ten championship and Rose Bowl appearance, but since then, 7 straight to the Buckeyes. And against top opponents, Penn State not getting it done. James Franklin not getting it done. Look at these numbers. 1-3 against the top 5 at home. 0-9 now against top 5 teams on the road. Against top 10 teams, it doesn't look much better. Although, once they get to postseason play, they play much better in the bowl games against teams from outside the conference. But most of the top 5, top 10, and ranked matchups are against Big Ten opponents. Against the top 25, much better, but still not really strong at 13-24. But look at those anemic showings for Penn State as they continue to disappoint against the top 5 and top 10 teams in the country. Penn State's going to have another opportunity to make amends, this time in the friendly confines of Happy Valley against Michigan. But for now, in the Bottom 10, James Franklin. Sparty had no shot against Michigan, but 49-0. Michigan State goes down to defeat, and despite an awful season for Michigan State in the aftermath of the Mel Tucker debacle, and it's good to see them move on from there, and hopefully with Harlan Barnett, they can gain some value out of this season and then get a capable head coach who's going to stay on the straight and narrow going forward. But for right now, Michigan State was playing some decent football. They almost beat a pretty decent Rutgers team, had them down by 18 points in the second half, and blew that game. They went to Iowa, had a 3-point lead in the fourth quarter, so they've been competitive against pretty good teams. But against the Maize and Blue, they got blasted, annihilated. Michigan could have named the score. At one point in the first half, the total yardage read 265 for Michigan, 56 for Michigan State. They lose it 49-0. And consider that Michigan State, from the time Mark D'Antonio took over into the Mel Tucker era, went 10-4 against Michigan. So little brother once beat up big brother over and over and over and over. 10-4. D'Antonio actually won 8 of 10 during the decade, starting in 2008 against Michigan. But for right now, the Wolverines, obviously the much better program, the much better team. They dominate in this one. Rushing yardage for Michigan State, 1.7 yards per carry. Outgained 477 to 182. 13 possessions for Michigan State, 0 points, nothing on the board. First shutout loss since 2020 against Indiana, 24-0. Michigan State couldn't even play a clean football game, 11 penalties for 120 yards. It was a mess at home against the Maize and Blue. For our bottom 10 selection at number 8, we've got Sparty. TCU was reminded of its national championship game embarrassment by the team that defeated them in last year's Big 12 title game. Kansas State 41, TCU 3. The Wildcats rang up 587 yards of total offense and 343 yards rushing. TCU, again, the Cinderella darling team of 2022, falls to 2-3 in the mediocre Big 12. Our next team in the bottom 10, after a 41-3 thrashing by Kansas State, TCU. Making a weekly appearance and seemingly permanent appearance in the bottom 10, of course, it's Brian Ferentz and the Iowa offense. Here are the latest numbers from a game in which the Hawkeyes scored just 10 points. At least they scored them all on offense against Minnesota. All right. Deacon Hill, 10 for 28 passing, 3 for 15 in the second half for a mammoth 20 yards passing. 3 turnovers out of Deacon Hill, plus the interception that sealed the game for Minnesota. 28 carries for the Iowa rushing attack for all of 11 yards. Even if you take out the sacks and the rushing from Deacon Hill, 20 carries for 33 yards from the Iowa running backs, 127 total yards of offense for Iowa against the Gophers, means that the Hawkeyes once again have the worst offense in college football at just 232 yards per game and dropping. The point total barometer for Brian Ferentz, needing to score 25 points per game, is a negative 44 on the season. Iowa needs to make up 44 points in its final games to get Brian Ferentz his bonus at 25 points per game. In the process, the Hawkeyes confirmed that they are the worst offense in college football, number 133 at just 232 yards per game and declining by the week. And oh yeah, that 25 points per game standard is now negative 44 for Brian Ferentz, a permanent member of the bottom 10. Brian Ferentz and the Hawkeyes offense. Now we go to a program not known for woeful offense, but that has been the standard for this season at Arkansas, losing 6 consecutive games, losing to Mississippi State 7-3. I don't know that I've seen this statistic. KJ Jefferson, one of the great dual threat quarterbacks in college football, not having a great season, completed 19 of 31. Sounds pretty good. 19 completions, not horrible, for 97 yards. I don't know that I've ever seen that many completions for under 100 yards. But that was the Arkansas output against Mississippi State on Saturday, which led to offensive coordinator Dan Enos's firing. He has been outed. And Enos led an offense for Arkansas last season that finished number 15 in the country. The Arkansas offense is now down in the Iowa range at number 121 in the nation after a lowly 3-point effort against Mississippi State. Appearing in the bottom 10. It's a rarity, but it's the Hogs on offense. Sam Houston, we understand. It's just your first year in FBS play. But still, you are the only winless team in FBS play at 0-7. And therefore, you have stayed and claimed your spot in the bottom 10. Losing to FIU in overtime, you were oh so close to pulling out a win, but no. Sam Houston stays at 0-7. They've got a shot coming up this weekend against UTEP, and the Miners are just 2-6. So Sam Houston stays in the bottom 10, and you know who joins them? Courtesy a loss to the only other winless team. Nevada was an underdog against San Diego State. They had not defeated a Mountain West team since going all the way back to November of 21. So losing to Nevada, San Diego State, you have your spot in the bottom 10 as well, losing 6-0. And this is a proud Aztec football program. They are 72-30 and one of the great players in the Mountain West from season to season, a contending championship team. But 72-30 since 2015, but this is a bad football team here in 2023, losing to the Wolfpack, who had lost 16 consecutive games. It is San Diego State's first shutout since losing in the Frisco Bowl to Ohio, and their first regular season shutout since losing to Wisconsin in 2006, 14-0. Another entry into our bottom 10. Not Nevada, it's San Diego State. Hugh Freeze and Auburn have yet to discover the downfield passing game in 2023. Oh, they are awful, woeful at trying to throw the ball from quarterback to wide receiver downfield. Entered the final drive of a 28-21 loss, so a pretty respectable loss to a good Ole Miss team at home. Went into the final drive with just 45 yards passing. So look at all the passing statistics, all the metrics, and Auburn you will find in the bottom 5 to 10 in the country across the board. Number 124 in passing offense. Number 103 in efficiency. Number 108 in touchdown passes with only 7. Auburn losing to Ole Miss back-to-back seasons for the first time since 1952. Peyton Thorne is not the answer. Robbie Ashford apparently not the answer. Hugh Freeze, you are paid to come up with the answers. Auburn is woeful throwing the football, and they are still in our bottom 10, along with SEC colleague Tennessee. Now, the Vols are a good football team. They fell to 5-2 in Tuscaloosa, and their 34-20 loss would not necessarily have gained them a spot in the bottom 10. Alabama's Alabama. Tennessee loses by a couple touchdowns. Competitive game, but they were up by 2 scores at halftime. And then Bama went on a 27-0 run to close out the win. So Tennessee, Josh Heupel, you have landed in our bottom 10. And what caps off your appearance is the comment made after the game by linebacker Elijah Herring, who said, "I guess we got comfortable. I guess we just assumed that we were going to win the game." If you're Tennessee and you're playing Alabama, you don't make any assumptions on winning anything. You've lost everything for the past 16 years, albeit that one win last season in Knoxville. Tennessee has not won in Tuscaloosa against Alabama for 20 years, going all the way back to 2003. Yet one of their starting players said, "Yeah, I think we got comfortable. We thought we already won the game." Tennessee, that has landed you in the bottom 10. This was a fun one again this week. We always appreciate your feedback as well. So in the comment section down below, what are some other examples of woeful efforts in college football for the past weekend, whether they extend throughout the season? Sam Houston, Iowa offense, or others that just popped up in week 8 of college football. Best discussion, debate, and analysis right here at the Voice of College Football.